Let's take a look at more from Jaipur Literature Festival and our conversations with the authors at the event and what they brought onto the stage for audiences. Very engaging. Do take a look.
How did this person from this very prestigious family, political family in Nepal, get into films? I mean, what were you thinking?
Initially when I wanted to get into the movies, there was a lot of hue and cry, and there was a lot of how could a Koirala girl get into this big bad world of movies and Bollywood? But things aren't that bad the way it's been portrayed, and later on everything changed because same people embraced me, and so it's been like I first did a movie in Nepal called Theri Bhitonla, and during that whole process I loved the camera, I loved performing.
To ask you, when you were going through all of this journey, Manisha ji, and you came from the most success someone could see in Bollywood to the biggest faces you could be next to as their heroine, as like the lead star of the industry. Did all of the glitz and glamour sort of dissociate when you had bigger things to worry about your life? And now that when you look back at Bollywood with the new movie coming up, did that perspective and the love for the craft and the way you wanted to express it, did that completely change after the cancer experience?
I guess I always loved working in cinema. I always loved theater. I always loved cinema. I always loved acting. But I feel today I savor the moment much more. I enjoy the moment much more. I'm probably, I don't like to leave even 1% behind. But it's just that I want to give 101% to everything that I do now. So
yes.
it may not be great, but I try to do my best.
I've done mistakes. I've done things that not really realizing that this is success or ego or flying high and not really caring for the repercussions and all that. It is part of my story very much.
I would love for you to just give one comment on Jaipur Literature Festival. They're basically taking you everywhere.
Yeah.
And, Healed, again, everybody, grab your copies if you haven't and read on her story. But this is something that you're discussing constantly. It's been a great way for you to interact with everybody.
Yeah.
What do you have to say to them?
I really feel so grateful for Jaipur Literature Festival have invited me. For me to actually visit and see the whole that jazz in Jaipur was aha moment, and I was like an Alice in Wonderland. Seriously, because there's this massive amount of crowd and readers, book enthusiasts, and it's beautiful. You meet authors, you meet thinkers, you meet people who have things to say and express, whether it's political, and you meet diverse people from different sect of belief and faith, and there is a podium for everybody to express and talk.
Definitely.
So I think Jaipur Literature Festival is phenomenal. It's my first literature festival because it's my first book, but I really want to be part of this team. I feel honored that they have welcomed me. I've been to London, I went to Houston, I came to New York, and I hope this journey continues with them. I wish them all the best, and I feel privileged to be part of the family.
Anyone who has an interest in learning more about Indian authors, writers, and stories, you must try to find these events in the United States or come to Jaipur.
Alia, your topics that you brought to the stage today with your books and your experience as a journalist has really pushed forward a narrative for suppressed voices and a different take on a situation that on the West we have, looked at refugees, Syrians, post 9/11 in a certain aspect. What sort of pushed you to go forth and bring out the other side of the perspective?
I guess growing up here in the U.S., I never felt that there was a representation of Arabs that felt familiar to me or even reminded me of the people that I knew. And we seemed really invisible and absent from the stories that the United States told about itself, both in terms of its history and its contemporary lives of contemporary Americans. So I guess when I got to the point where I sort of transitioned into journalism, I tried to create the works that I wish existed when I was a kid, when I was growing up. And I had the opportunities to do that.
What do you wish people could understand about the situation and perhaps the condition of refugees in the year 2019?
I mean, that it could happen to any of us. And how would you want to be received? And how would you want to be treated if you were in that position? The great and tragic irony is that Syria has for the last 100 years been a place of refuge for different refugees, from Armenians fleeing genocide as the Ottoman Empire came apart, as Palestinians fled the dispossession of Palestine, when the Lebanese had to flee because of their civil wars, when Iraqis fled because of the US invasions, and they always made space for them. And that's something cultural that I wish that when I hear the rhetoric and the discourse around refugees today, I wish that there was an ability to empathize and to understand that this can happen to anybody. I think most Syrians never thought it could happen to them, and then it happened to them. So I think we need a lot more empathy in this world.
You talk a lot about exploring one's identity and sort of celebrating it. So just a little bit about the book that you have coming up now, Clouds. Just wanted to talk about, the book right now while starting this interview, and also how has the experience been since you're visiting the US, discussing more on your book?
Well, Clouds is a book I started writing the month after I first came to the US 10 years ago. It was my first visit. I was 30. And I didn't go to New York or San Francisco. The first place I saw was Iowa City.
Iowa, right? Yes.
And it was an incredible time in my life. And it's one thing to hear American English in patches or in a book, and another to have it be the entire world for you. And I found the encounter wonderful. And Clouds is a story about somebody in his 40s who's a recently divorced psychotherapist in Bombay who cannot find love in Bombay among anybody his own age. Seems like everybody's unavailable or married. And he's decided to move to America. And it's a story about somebody on his way out of a country, but just for that reason, we see him in his last week of his life in Bombay. Every memory becomes very profound because you're saying goodbye.
What would you say your writing sort of describes about you, or perhaps your entire journey of writing and being a novelist, and especially sort of bringing that profession to places such as the New York City? What does that do for you?
Well, I think looking back now in middle age, I think I was very lucky to be born in 1980. You grew up a little bit in the world of socialist India, and then everything changed in the 90s. And I used to be living in Bombay then, where you experience that change very profoundly. And also the character of the politics of our country has changed so much in these years. And Indian democracy has matured. It's now 70 years old, and I've been alive for most of those decades. And somewhere you want to be a witness to all these amazing stories of our time and what's happening in front of our eyes. And living in Delhi and having a life in Bombay, where I used to live, and in Bhubaneswar, in Orissa, where my family comes from. My Indian life is a kind of giant equilateral triangle across the top of the country, north, east, and
You're
west.
really experiencing all across the nation in a way.
Yes, I think I don't spend more than a week at home ever. Always on the road. And when you are fit and you have the energy, you don't miss a moment of what is going on.